Well, thank you, Tariq, for being here tonight.
And thank you for having me.
Before we get into our talk, I just want to take a moment. If you haven't heard, today is a monumentally sad day in American music with the news that Prince has passed away. I know you knew him. You knew him well. We were talking today. You had a great story that you shared with us about Prince that only can be described as quintessential Prince, if you will. Do you mind sharing that, or?
I don't mind. Yep. About a year or so ago, actually, okay. This is when I kind of realized that it was the right thing to do for me to be tweeting and for me to kind of join the social media fray. I had a Twitter account for maybe a year or close to 2 years before I'd ever sent out a tweet. And I had a couple thousand followers, and they were kind of just waiting for me to say anything. And early on, before I was kind of showed how to navigate Twitter by my partner Angela Nissel, who's sitting over here in the front row, I would just tweet out, I thought it was the kind of platform where you should put out an inspirational quote of the day, sort of thing. So I would use it to put out the Black Thought of the Day kind of thing. And one of the first times that I kind of showed a little humor on Twitter was the last time I saw Prince perform on Fallon. He came and he was doing a show. He was the musical guest, and he asked to borrow something. There was some issue with his guitar, so he asked to borrow my guitarist's instrument. And my guitarist, who I'm calling my guitarist, is Kirk Douglas of The Roots. Mm-hmm. So Kirk is, like all of us, is a huge Prince fan, and he relinquished his axe, so to speak. And Prince proceeded.
But it wasn't any special.
It was a super special guitar to Kirk. I think it had been through a flood and a fire, and had been struck by lightning and then been refurbished. And I think Kirk had just gotten it back from recent repairs, and he let Prince use his guitar. And Prince proceeded to shred. He did this crazy guitar solo on the Tonight Show, or maybe at that point it was still late night, but on the Fallon show, and there was all this purple smoke, and Prince was as close to us performing as, say, Phil is right now. Mm-hmm. And he did this crazy solo, that I'll always remember. Then at the end of the solo, he threw Kirk's guitar up into the air and he just walked off stage. And then, as he walked off, the guitar landed and it hit the ground, and it was just jacked up, and just the look on Kirk's face, it was priceless. It was totally priceless. And it prompted me to tweet from that stage, something about, the look on Captain Kirk's face is, when Prince just destroyed his prized possession guitar, priceless. And however I worded it, it was in jest. And I think Prince got the guitar fixed, and he didn't just leave the building, but he left the stage. And I sent out that little tweet, and then I was coming into NBC the next day, and I walked past the building where Fox News is. I think it was Fox News, but one of these news tickers, where the news is constantly on feed, and you can read it from the street. And I saw my tweet up there, my tweet about Prince's, wrecking Kirk's guitar. So that's when I kind of realized the power and the potential of using my social media. And that's when I also realized how much of a jokester Prince was. He would do a lot of stuff, I think, just for shits and giggles. And he would call, have his team call ahead of his arrival and say, the artist doesn't want anyone to make eye contact with him in the hall. But I really don't think it was that serious to him. I think he would do this sort of thing because it was expected, because that's the sort of icon he was. But he's definitely been a huge influence to the Roots, and definitely Questlove and people like D'Angelo and other artists that I've worked with over the years. And I feel like today is just a huge loss, for the world of music and art. And with Prince and David Bowie, who they were a lot alike, and Fife, and I feel like this year has just been a really sad year for music.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that story with us.
Thank you.
And the Twitter, your tweeting reminds me of why you're here today, which is kind of your connection with Phil through Twitter, and that brings you back to Harvard for the first time in 15 years, as we were saying.
Yeah.
The last time
yeah.
you were here was across the street, right? Do
Yeah,
you remember?
yeah. The last time the Roots were here at Harvard, or that I was here, was when the Roots played a gig at, I think it's called Yard Fest. And I don't know if that even still happens, but we came. I think our good friend Natalie Portman and Tatiana Ali, I think they were on the board, or they had something to do with booking us. And we came and we did a show that was for students only, and you were there.
Yeah,
right?
so we were talking earlier, and I wasn't a student, so I was outside looking in at the gate. I could hear the Roots, but I couldn't really see anything.
Oh man.
So it's better. This is a much better experience. All right.
Nice.
So we talked before, and we talked about your life, your career, your passions. That's kind of what the other side is all about. And one thing here at the Innovation Labs, we believe that innovation, entrepreneurship. You met a bunch of companies, in the back earlier. That can't happen without one key ingredient, which is passion. And I think you saw that with the startups that we met.
Absolutely.
And obviously, music has been a passion for you and a dominant force for you in your life. Can you describe some of the things that informed your indoctrination to music, in the early days that eventually led to a career in music?
Early days for me, some of my earliest musical memories are of my mother playing songs in a hi-fi. I don't know if any of you guys know what a hi-fi is. It's like basically a chest of drawers, or like a dresser that you lift the lid on or lift the top off, and there's a place to insert 8-track cassette tapes, and then there's like a record player as well. So we used to get these 8 tracks. Sometimes they would do those commercials. I guess now the equivalent is an infomercial, but there would be, all of these, so all your favorite hits from the 60s, or, doo-wop in the 70s, whatever. So my mom would get these 8 tracks, and I was a huge fan of the doo-wop music on 8-track, and I was a huge fan of James Brown and of Elvis. So, I was 5 or 6 years old or so, and I would come out, dressed in a suit with the lapels flipped up and slide across the floor. And, those are some of my earliest memories. Some of the, my earliest memories of hip hop came from my brother. I have an older brother who was about 8 years or so older than I. So, he was kind of like in the thick of it when hip hop was still very new to me. So that's how I kind of made my transition. At around 8 or 9, I won't say 9 years old is when I wrote my first rhyme. I became a hip hop fan, and the rest is kind of history.
And how did you start performing? You were in choirs or?
Yeah. At a young age, I was in the city chorus, which is a choir made of students in like 2nd through 6th graders or something. And I was also always involved in the choirs at the church that my grandmother attended. My family was Islamic, so I kind of was raised in a Muslim household, but I always went to church. Because my grandmother, I would stay with her on the weekends, and she would make me go to church. So I was never baptized, but I always went to church, and I was always active, because there was being associated with that church provided a lot of different outlets for me. Chances to go on trips and just to be involved in activities that I otherwise wouldn't have been exposed to. So
in addition to music, you also had a passion for art growing up, which eventually led you to Philadelphia High School for the Arts.
Yeah.
How do you get, what interested you about art, and how do you get involved in art from an early age?
I got involved in art. I guess I was just always fairly artistic. And I think my mom saw that at a very young age, and she kind of wanted to nurture that, artistic quality. So she sent me to art school. I went to art school on Saturdays while my future partner Questlove was in music school just a few blocks away. I went to Fleischer Art Memorial. It was like 3 blocks away from Settlement Music School, which is where Questlove went on the weekends. In the summertime, I went to art camp in Fairmount Park in Philadelphia. When I got a little older, I went to take art classes at a college level while I was still in elementary school. It was something that I always excelled at, and it was, for me, art and the arts was my escapism. So it was a way for me to kind of, get away from the block and get away from the neighborhood and, everything that was happening in the part of Philadelphia that I was from at the time. So, I feel like it served me well.
In terms of other things you did to kind of, get out, hustle. We talked about hustling a little bit when we talked earlier.
Oh, yeah.
You were an entrepreneur from an
Absolutely.
early age.
Absolutely. I've always been kind of, employed.
How many jobs have you had?
I think I've had like, maybe 30 is a modest number. I've had lots and lots of jobs doing all sorts of stuff. The first of which was in second grade. So second grade, I got my first job. It was working at a place called the Philadelphia Vision Center, which was an optician that was probably halfway between my school and home. So I started wearing glasses at an early age, and I would often destroy them in school, and I would have to go and get them repaired. So sometimes I would stop at this place, and I would ask if they could fix my glasses because I would be in trouble if my mom found out that I had broken them again. And I guess just through our interaction, every month or so, or every few weeks when I, needed to, I broke my glasses a lot, and
Twice a week, right?
And I used to wear the rubber sports straps so that they don't come off, but they still would just get jacked up. So I don't know how it came out, but these guys who own this optician place kind of found out that I was a latchkey kid. This was a thing when I was coming up. First and second graders would go to school, or sometimes your parents would drop you off at school, but they worked later into the evening, so you would come home and have your door key around your neck on a shoestring or something, and you let yourself into the house, lock the door, make yourself something to eat. You were a latchkey kid. I think you'll get in trouble if you do this now, but it was a thing when I was in first grade. So these guys found out that I was really coming home to an empty house, so they would create little things for me to do and pay me. It began as me running errands, and then it grew into kind of cleaning the spot and learning how to cut lenses, which I'm pretty sure they shouldn't have showed me. But what that instilled in me was a work ethic that I feel like has remained with me.
Yeah, and what other stuff did you like? You did a bunch of other things as well.
I've done so many other things. I mean, I was always I always kind of had to do it or get it for myself. My mother didn't have much. I lost my father at a very early age, like before the age of 2. So I grew up, very much just with my mother. And, she would say stuff like, well, I'm only buying you 2 pairs of sneakers this year. So if you want another pair of sneakers, you're going to have to figure out how to get them, for yourself. Or, she kind of instilled that hustle in me to do for self. So at times when I wasn't necessarily gainfully employed, I would create a job. I would go to the Federal Pretzel Company and be the first person there at 5 a.m. to get the fresh, hot, soft pretzels, which Philly is kind of famous for. And I would sit out on the street and sell those. And I would sell, quarter waters. And I would, go door to door and ask people if they needed their all the jobs that you really don't want to do for yourself at home, scrubbing the walls and, cleaning the stairs, cleaning the pavement out front. I would do all that, and try and get it done early in the day. So I would have money. I would have a couple dollars. My grandmother would always say, you want to have you a couple dollars, a little spending money in your pocket. So, what if everybody wants to go get a water ice or some potato chips and you don't got you no money? Make sure you got you a couple dollars and drink you plenty water. So, I mean, that's what I did.
And, you weren't a solo entrepreneur your whole life. You eventually became part of a team, and, we here at the iLab make connections and helping build teams. We know how instrumental it is in the success of any venture. And for you, that was connecting with Questlove. Can you you connect with him at the High School for the Arts?
Oh, yeah.
You talk about
I met Questlove, I think, around 1986 at the High School for Creative and Performing Arts in Philadelphia. Go Kappa. Ange went to Kappa, too. But yeah, something had transpired. I think, I had a girlfriend. She was a dance major. I was a visual arts major. We were cutting class together. Something happened. If you read Questlove's book, Mo Meta Blues, he has one take on the story, and I have another.
What's your take?
I mean, I think I've been suspended for just getting caught cutting class with my girlfriend at the time. But to hear him tell the story, it's like I don't know. It was me and a bunch of girls. So I've been suspended from school, and I was coming back from my suspension. I was in the office, the principal's office, and Questlove came, strolling in because he was, a goody-goody. He was probably just coming in to say, just checking up on the principal, make sure he's good. And he had on a jacket, and it was a really cool jacket. It was a denim jacket that had a hand-painted peace sign on the back of it, and it was all psychedelic looking. And he also had on a medallion with a black fist on it that, now he's known for, the pick in his head with the black fist on it. And one of my side hustles at the time was I would do hand-painted jeans and jackets, and I would also make these wooden carvings of sometimes a fist or a profile of a head or something, and I would sell them. So I was looking this guy up and down, like, who is this guy, for one, with the huge shag. He had like, I call it a jerry curl. He'll deny it. But he had like a jerry curl that was cut into what was called a shag, which was a popular hairstyle back in the day. Like Theo Huxtable on the Cosby Show, he had a shag. So imagine a huge shag, but with a curl in it. So I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, who is this guy? Where did he get this jacket from? Where did he get this medallion? And someone like moving in on my turf, so to speak. So I chatted him up, and come to find out, the jacket had come from his mother, and the fist had come from maybe a member of Sly and the Family Stone or something. And he explained to me how his parents were a band called Congress Alley in the 70s, and before that, his father was in a doo-wop band called Lee Andrews and the Hearts, and his father is a music legend, and he's a musician. He's an instrumental major. He's a drummer, and I had never really had a group, a rap group. I never had a partner up until that point in time, and we kind of developed a rapport, and the relationship grew in that he would introduce me to soul music and jazz music and music that his parents created and listened to, and the music of their peers, and lots of the music that I was into at the time was hip hop, and he would introduce me to where it was sampled from. Mm-hmm. So like, the original source where, the songs that were my favorites kind of came from. And in turn, I would introduce him to hip hop music. I would play Public Enemy for him, and I introduced him to, NWA and, so on and so forth. So a relationship developed, and we decided to form a group. Already at the time in our school, there was Joey DeFrancesco, who was a piano virtuoso, who is still one of the jazz greats on piano. There was Christian McBride, who's arguably the best bassist of our generation, and Boyz II Men was there, and they would they would be singing songs in the hallway. Amel Larue. I was just so immersed in music and surrounded by musicians that I would cut my classes. I would cut my art classes and just go hang out in their classes, and I became inspired. So yeah, we started a group. We had a bunch of horrible names. We were called Radioactivity. We were called Black to the Future.
That's terrible. Who was Marty McFly in that?
If we were Black to the Future, I guess I would have had to be McFly. But yeah, we thought of calling ourselves Soulfish for a minute, but at the end of the day, we decided to call ourselves the Square Roots, and so yeah, we were called the Square Roots. And when we went to record a demo, and eventually, wanted to get the name copyrighted, someone already had the name Square Roots, so we called ourselves the Roots. Which, strangely enough, even when we were Square Roots, I would refer to the band as the Roots. The first song that we ever recorded on our first demo, which is now technically our first album, which is called Organics, but this was our demo tape. The song is called The Roots Is Coming. So I feel like it was kind of, in the cards, and the universe had spoken.
So you didn't get success. You didn't achieve success overnight. You had a lot of trial and error. You learned a lot. You had some successes. You failed a bit, and you probably learned a lot from your failure. How did you guys hone your skills? How did you evolve as a band, learning from the mistakes and
I think our real evolution as a band came when we started to play out on the street in Philadelphia. We would busk, with the same way people sometimes play in New York City on the subway or down in the subway stations. We would do that just on a side street called Passyunk Avenue, which was off of South. South Street was like a cultural melting pot for the city. It was the Greenwich Village, so to speak, of Philadelphia, and it was the place where we could interact with the widest range of people in the shortest amount of time, like before the police would come and say, all right, that's enough. You guys, move on. But, they would let us play for a little bit, and we'd be out there with an upright bass, with Josh Abrams on bass, who was our original bassist, and Amir or Questlove with a very stripped down, bare bones drum set, like maybe a hi-hat, the kick drum, a really small kick drum, and a snare. And I would be out there unamplified, and we would kind of take it to the streets. And from those days of playing on the streets, that's kind of how we figured out what to do, what not to do. We would get the offers to do other gigs, maybe later on in the day, maybe at a different date. But it was very hands-on. And I liken it to the time that the Beatles spent, before they were masters of song. They spent a lot of time in Germany just playing in brothels. And you go to a brothel, you're not there to see music.
Really?
So the Beatles, they had to be really engaging, and they had to be really entertaining in order to hold your attention. And that's kind of who we modeled ourselves after at the time.
And what did you learn about the business side of music? What did how did your hustling, your work ethic, and your kind of early entrepreneurial roots, how did that inform building a music business with the Roots?
Our early entrepreneurial roots, it was kind of the beginning of a long journey, and it let us know that not everything is going to work, but not to be discouraged, when it didn't. It let us know that lots of your ideas may wind up on the cutting room floor, so to speak. But if you guys are performing for the greater good and remain conscious of that hard work kind of pays off. We've never really enjoyed super commercial success. We've never been a mega record selling group. We've never, we don't have that many music videos that are, legendary. We've always been a motley crew, but we've always worked hard, and because of that, I feel like we've become one of the most critically acclaimed bands in hip hop history and music history, and I think our staying power and the longevity of our career speaks to our perseverance and our mastery.
So fast forward today, Roots has had a long career, and now you have a new full-time gig. It's quite different from.
It's relatively new, but we've been doing it for 7 years now.
Yeah.
So time flies.
And so, what's it like? Doing something it's a bit of a pivot from what most musical groups do, being the house band for a daily television show. Mm-hmm. What has that transition been like, and what are some things you learned moving to the Tonight Show?
The transition, I think it was a smooth transition in that the time at which it took place, it was just, there was a huge shift taking place in music. There was like the change from tangible CDs and cassettes that had been long gone, but people weren't buying records physically. At the time that Jimmy proposed that we start, backing him on the late night show, there was the digital music era was kind of, taking off, and concert tickets weren't selling as much. More importantly for us, concert tickets weren't selling as much as they had been in the past. There was like this shift, and there was, almost a musical depression in the industry. So we had to figure out what we were going to do. We were a band that had sustained ourselves. We survived from being on the road. We spent a year living in London just so we could be closer to European gigs. When we would get offers to do gigs, we couldn't afford to fly transcontinentally all the time. So we just all, 10 or 12 of us moved into a 2-bedroom flat in London and stayed there for a year. So at the time that Jimmy approached us, it kind of made sense to do something different just because things were changing. So, we were game for a change. And we had done some music already for the Dave Chappelle Show. Who's a good friend, and Neil Brennan, who's also a good friend and was co-creator of Chappelle's Show. He was kind of being courted to be the head writer for this new late night show that Jimmy Fallon was going to do. And Neil, I don't know, for whatever reason, he decided not to do it. He didn't take the gig, but he jokingly, just suggested, you should try and get the Roots as your house band. I think he just said it in. He said it really casually, and Jimmy, who's a huge music fan, who was already a fan of the Roots, and we were kind of on his radar, he said, that's a great idea. And, he started, coming to check us out. We would arrive at the venue, and Jimmy Fallon would be there, and he's like, pitching this show idea. And he kind of, stuck with it and, proved to be serious and, proved to be, to become a great friend. And we decided to do it. It felt right. The stars in the universe were aligned, and we went ahead and took the gig. Early on, we felt like the fans that had been, who had kind of stuck with us since the beginning, might feel like as though we had sold out. They might feel as though we were going to compromise the integrity of the music at that point. But I feel like since we've been on the Fallon Show is when, our music just got that much more serious, and we put out, some of our most critically acclaimed and, some of our best and conceptually tight material, since we've been on the Fallon Show.
What are some differences with this kind of full-time gig that you have?
I've been used to being my own boss. I've been my own boss. And the main guy in the Roots from the age of 18 or so. So to have a hierarchy where there's Jimmy, there's the executive producer, then there's Jimmy, then there's Lorne Michaels, then there's the corporate, there's NBC Universal, and there's Comcast, and there's a whole chain of command, so to speak. Sometimes someone could come into the building and be walking down the hall, and I won't know this person from a can of paint, and it's like, oh, that's one of your bosses. So I have so many people to answer to now, and I have.
So you're corporate. You've got your.
Yes, it's definitely corporate. It's corporate, and you have to be mindful of that. You know what I'm saying?
And so, in addition to the Roots and being the house band for the Tonight Show, you also do a bunch of other things, acting, right?
Yep.
So what are your goals acting? And what do you plan on doing? When will we see you? Or where will we see you?
I just really enjoy acting right now because I've become a jaded musician.
Is that the career trajectory right now?
I think, we were just talking about, how legendary means, you're old now. So, I'm kind of used to, to doing what I do in the Roots, and I'm comfortable with that role. But the same way I've been doing visual art for a long time, and then I decided, you know what, I want to do music. I've been doing music now for a long time, and I feel like the medium that inspires me and excites me has changed to acting. So I've kind of risen to that challenge. And I did my first film. It was called Brooklyn Babylon. I did it in like '99, and I took on the lead role my first time out. So that gave me a deeper understanding of the responsibilities of an actor, and how those responsibilities vary depending on the role you've been cast in. And I've done just as much acting as I've been able to since then. Most recently, I've had a chance to play opposite Anthony Mackie as his brother in a film called Night Catches Us. I had a chance to play opposite my good friend Zoe Kravitz in a film called Yelling to the Sky, which is my first time getting killed on screen. I had a chance to travel to Mississippi and shoot on location in a film that was executive produced by Mick Jagger and Brian Grazer. That was the James Brown biopic, Get On Up. I learned to play saxophone in that film. I'm really proud of my work in that film. And then most recently, there's a film called Stealing Cars that I get to play an English teacher in. I'm only in maybe one or two scenes, but I like the fact that I get to show, just some diversity, some range in my roles. So I did that at the same time as the James Brown movie, and I think it's going to be in theaters really soon. I play like an English teacher at a home for wayward boys. But William H. Macy's in it, Felicity Huffman's in it. I've been blessed enough to share the screen with really serious actors, and the fact that they've taken me seriously has given me some sort of a validity. And then most recently, I have a reoccurring role on a new HBO series called The Deuce. It's about 42nd Street, circa New York City, 42nd Street, circa the 1970, 71, the beginning of the porn industry, the rise of HIV and AIDS. And it's a gritty film. It was created by David Simon, who created The Wire, directed by Michelle McLaurin of Breaking Bad. And again, I just get to work with some really great people. So I think that pilot is coming to air soon on HBO, and you'll be seeing me on that show.
I don't think I can help you out with that show, but if you need any, I was a former English teacher.
Oh, okay.
If you need any inspiration on the other,
on
the other role, I can help you out with that.
Nice.
So, in addition to acting and everything else you're doing, you're also a bit of a fashion maven.
Yeah.
And can we just point out where you're rocking right now?
Oh man, I'm rocking.
Stand up.
Okay. These shoes are from Lanvin, Paris.
No, I mean the sweater.
This obviously. I got my Letterman on. You call me David Letterman for the night. This was a gift from you all. The good people here at Harvard, and I threw it on immediately. But
seriously, with you have been involved in fashion, in particular. particular with Moscot, the glasses brand. Can you
Yeah.
talk about your involvement there and how you got involved?
A year or so ago, I did a collaboration with Moscot. It was one of the oldest eyewear companies in the country. They're from New York City. They just celebrated their, I think, 100th anniversary a year or so ago. They kind of masters of the craft of optometry and of making solid, sturdy eyewear that are staple pieces. You know what I'm saying? They don't do much trendy stuff. And they approached me around the time we did the Roots. We were spokespersons for a John Varvatos campaign a few years ago, and at that time, some of the people at Moscot approached me and asked, if I thought any sort of collaboration would or could make sense with them. At the time, I couldn't think of anything, but we stayed on each other's radar, and eventually it made sense to do a collaboration with them. They had an initiative called Mobilize, where they went around to different neighborhoods that were underserviced, and provided free eye exams and eyewear for boys in need. And I think they did this in conjunction with the New York City Boys Club. And I was beginning, a charity of my own called the Grassroots Community Foundation that kind of, provides services and counseling on health and fitness and, that sort of thing to underprivileged girls, school-age girls. So that's when it made sense for me to do this collaboration with Moscot. So I designed my first pair of frames, and I put a spin on one of their classic frames. I changed the colorway and the size and the lenses, and it took a while, but they came out, and it was available, really limited availability, but since they hit the market, LeBron James has not been seen any place without my glasses. So I feel like I've arrived.
Yeah,
I'm kind of a designer now.
Grammys.
Yeah. Yep.
LeBron James wearing your gear.
Yeah, I mean, that's that means a lot more to me than the Grammys.
So, just looking back at your whole life of entrepreneurship, you've, you started a band. As a kid, you had a bunch of hustles. You worked as a second grader for a glasses company.
Yeah.
You painted jeans and designed medallions. Now that's come full circle. You've helped create a fashion line in your name. You have a wide range of entrepreneurial experiences, and if any, what advice could you give to somebody who's starting to build a company, somebody who maybe is an aspirational musician, maybe a hopeful artist, that could help them in any way?
If there's anything that I want to leave you all with, kind of, I would say don't do anything for fear, because fear will never do anything for you. I just saw 15 amazing ideas in the iLab here that I'm sure are going to change the world. I feel like you all have your whole entire future ahead of you, and you're going to go on to greatness. And just don't be discouraged by failure or loss or criticism or backlash, and just go out into the world and be fearless. To quote my good friend Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is just a beacon of inspiration and hope, and who I recently won a Grammy and a gold record with, who just last week won a Pulitzer Prize.
If you don't know,
Lin-Manuel Miranda is the creator. He's the writer and star of the Broadway musical Hamilton,
which is not only is this cultural phenomenon, but
Yeah.
also kind of has changed our currency as well.
Oh yeah. You know, he's almost single-handedly responsible for saving Hamilton the Hamilton $10 bill. So I mean, I say all that to say, he had a Broadway hit called In the Heights. And it was a success, and he still felt like he had yet to arrive, and he was still driven. And he listened to the universe when one day on vacation he was looking for something to read, and he read the autobiography or a biography of Alexander Hamilton. And it took him 6 years to write this musical, but he kind of knew he was onto something. And I feel like now, 1 year later, after the musical's been on Broadway, he doesn't necessarily have to ever work again if he doesn't want to. So the main song, if I don't know if any of you have seen Hamilton, but the main song in the musical is a song called My Shot. And the chorus is, I'm not throwing away my shot, I'm not throwing away my shot. I'm just like my country, I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. So, I mean, I say to you all, be fearless and, don't throw away your shot.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. Thank you. That's an awesome answer.
Thank you.
We're going to start to take a couple questions from the audience. I have a bunch. And the first one kind of follows on that, what you just said about fear and failure. As an entrepreneur, at C. Chiodo, doing my Twitter, reading people's Twitter names. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. Their question was, as an entrepreneur, what was your biggest failing, do you think? And just to add to that, what do you think you learned from it?
My biggest failing. There have been many times that I've been in the studio and I've had, I've been given the opportunity to write for, an icon or, the Dr. Dre or P. Diddy or to do a song with Nas. There have been many times that I've been in the studio and I've just not been able to come up with, something that I thought best represented where I was at the time creatively. So I just opted out of, those sessions. I've never been one to kind of force the art. So, at times when it just hasn't been able to happen naturally for me, I've just kind of, chalked it up as something that wasn't, in the cards, that, wasn't necessarily, though I felt like it should have been, it wasn't necessarily in my trajectory. And, what I take away from that is, just to keep going, I feel like all the people who I just named, who I've had failed recording or writing sessions with, they still hold me in super high regard, and it hasn't affected the level of respect that they have for my craft. So you just got to keep going and listen to and trust your gut.
It does come naturally sometimes, though, as I witnessed today.
It has to come naturally, or I'm not going to do it.
You dropped some lyrics today at lunch.
Oh, yeah.
Can you give us a little reprise or something?
I said, at lunch, I had a little rhyme that I started freestyling, and I put Phil's name in it. I'm not going to do that, but I will. I can kick a rhyme.
Yeah. I think we'd all enjoy it.
Okay. Don't judge me. Okay. All right, let me see. Okay. We're living in some times that's the craziest. They say these legislators are the laziest. Dedicated religious figures have gone atheist. Each and everything must change. There's no escaping this. I'm on a block, post-apocalyptic smoke covers, coincidentally presented by the Koch brothers. The magnitude of this is bigger than the both of us. The attitude is trying to manage not to choke from it. Go and get the bolt cutters. Open the floodgate. Any relationship I've ever been in was love-hate. The city I was living in really never was safe. For some, a temporary resolution was duct tape. Now, I'm going to probably be on the blacklist, but I don't give a fuck. So I'm going to shrug like Atlas. And if my skepticism was a brand new practice, would y'all be disappointed like you just got catfished? It's cold-blooded. I'm wholeheartedly cold-hearted and swole from it. The same unseen hand still in control of it. I should be minding my own like it's a gold nugget, but I'm on that same bullshit, just on a lower budget, waiting on change that been low. Till the day after tomorrow, I sit by the window in the police state like your man Michael Winslow. My kinfolk told me there's a brand new Jim Crow. I've been going to bed at 10, up at 5, hustle to the bus and ride to the job. It's feeling hot as the 4th of July. My lady just getting home. We living separate lives. She couldn't be one of those Stepford wives if she tried. They shot my cousin. He died. It wasn't justified. I guess I'll see him if I make it to the other side. The corner deli owner tell me hurry up and buy. If everybody is somebody, tell me who am I? The same figure who came from Anguilla, ain't nothing different. I think I'm addicted to pain killer. I'm unpermitted to enter the village of Shangri-La. I'm depicted as being a killer that's dangerous, huh? Half dozen in one hand, 6 in the other. Yo, this is more than a suntan, it's living color. Black as oblivion, black as obsidian, black as the sky at midnight out to meridian. I am black as a portrait with Diddy, Tupac, and Biggie in. Black as the influence on the culture we living in. I survived the Chitlin circuit, vaudeville in, managed to inspire the Beatles and Bob Dylan them. But did I miss the mark because I'm just as dark as John Henry Clark's inner thoughts at the time of the Harlem Renaissance? After which, rights activists deviated the flight path to black ratchetness, putting us back smack dab where night catches us. We just go along for the ride. Passengers, gluttons for punishment, masochists, still doing whatever master asked of us. Will this generation go down as the last of us? Will being young men while black was hazardous? Into the proverbial master venger. All these pretenders suffer from symptoms of affluenza. I'm just thinking out loud about extinction agendas and plans. My grandmother definitely remembers. Listen, her suits were tailor-made. Sundays Mahalia played. Simple, familiar ways like the way she knelt and played well. And Lord Master, forgive us our trust. Pastors had us real afraid. I never listened, but I still obeyed. I got to see how gangsters played at such an early age. What my father was into sent them to his early grave. Then mom started chasing that bass like Willie Mays. My childhood was all of 40 nights and 40 days. Trouble was my ball and chain. Shorties would call me names. Humble beginnings, Black Thought is what that all became. My journey from a dirty hallway to the Hall of Fame. Music, my therapeutic way to deal with all this pain. I was headed for the drain, soaking before the rainwater came. In chaos, that's when the order came. I started doing what I'm supposed to do in life, trying to move out of the dark and closer to the light. They say when you get a chance to do it, overdo it right. Cause tomorrow isn't promised every time we say goodnight. Listen, dope shot, mug shot, gunshot, jump shot. Take your pick, but you only got one shot. Yeah. Advice from a school teacher to a young tot, applying a sticker to a Spider-Man lunchbox. When even role models tell us we're born to be felons, and we ain't getting into Harvard or Carnegie Mellon, and of these other people blessings we gonna be jealous, it's not fair that that's all they can tell us. That's why I hustle hella hard. I don't celebrate a holiday. That could be the day a brother could have struck the lottery. I refuse to ever lose or throw my shot away, or chalk it up as just another one that got away. So I'm unapologetic. I'm on my calisthenics. If I have given it all I got, I cannot regret it. My final destination's different from where I was headed, because I'm going to shoot for the stars to get it. One shot.
Yeah.
Very good.
Great. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.
Wow.
So I don't think any of these questions are going to top that in any way. But we'll have a couple more questions, all right?
Okay.
Because I don't want to leave them. There's a lot of people who ask some questions here. Here's a good one. This is from Hillary Ornberg, right? At Hillary Ornberg. we need innovators who make a difference, not just a profit. What keeps you so grounded in that regard?
I'm grounded in making a difference. Because at this point, it took a long time, to make a profit as an artist. I was a starving artist for, a good part of my career. So, everything that we've kind of ever done has been, for artistry's sake, and for the sake of the greater good, and for the sake of, paying an homage to those who came before us, and paving a way for those who will come after us. So.
Excellent. The Fruitcake Guy, great Twitter handle, whoever you are, has a great question, and it's something we've talked about before. And it aligns with the talk of passion we started our conversation with. Where do you go for inspiration outside of music? What are things that you're passionate about that people may not know you're passionate about?
Again, the medium of my art and my artisticity is ever evolving. And right now, outside of music and outside of acting and theater and stuff like that, I turn to the culinary world. So I fancy myself a mean chef. I like to cook. I like to come up with new recipes, and through trial and error until I master it, and then I'll move on and try something else. So that's kind of what I do.
What's your go-to dish?
I don't really have a go-to dish, but like I was saying, I make a mean turducken-burger. Keep it, I make a mean, oven-fried chicken with duck fat. It's crazy. I make my own pizza dough. I make pie crust. I make pie from scratch. I make my own pasta. I hand crank ravioli. I'm the real deal.
So when are you opening your restaurant?
I just need to get some investors. And we get it
Mr. Eric Reddy has a question, at Mr. Eric Reddy. And this is an interesting one. Any suggestions for keeping a strong, productive relationship with a co-founder like you have with Questlove?
I think every relationship between partners, co-founders is unique. And I think what keeps our relationship, what keeps our bond so strong in the business is that we have a mutual respect and camaraderie. But we also have, over the years, we've learned to give each other space. We spend, and we have spent and continue to spend lots of time together. So it works for us to have separate dressing rooms and separate tour buses, and to kind of come together when it's time to get busy, so to speak. We meet each other on the stage, or we're not even in the studio that often anymore, but we're in the studio together at NBC. I feel like that giving your partner space and respect is key. And I feel like in any relationship, you can't go into a business relationship expecting every idea of yours to stick or to even come to fruition. You know what I mean? There's some things that you're gonna have to sacrifice. You have to be courageous and make sacrifices. Again, I keep saying for the greater good, but for the good of the team. There are sometimes rhymes that I feel are stellar, but it's not the right fit for the performance or the project. And it's something that I might have to, try and utilize elsewhere where it's a better fit. And it goes the same way with Questlove in his production. It might be something that he spent months you're working on before he lets me hear it. And I hear it, and I'm like, I don't want to write to that, But that's not to say that, he won't use that to produce, someplace. So I feel like all things have their time and their place, and giving your partner, your co-founder, space and respect is key. And
so, last question from the audience, I'll take it, and this one is from @FranPMOAS, and it has to do with the kind of theme of legendary that we've discussed a little bit. And the Roots Crew is an iconic institution now. Do you remember the moment when you realized that the Roots were big? Was a big deal? Is there a moment that you remember?
I do. I remember it like it was yesterday. We got our start in Europe playing the festival circuit. Even before we had a record deal, we had performed at the Murs Music Festival as the Roots, which is a huge annual festival in Germany. And Questlove and myself, we had toured separately with various jazz artists, playing, we would go to the far reaches of the earth and, get paid like $300 or something and come home. But I feel, the fact that, we paid those dues early on, kind of paved the way for, like what we do now. You know what I'm saying?
That's great. That's great. I think that's
I'm sorry,
perfect.
what was the second part of the question?
It was like when you realized you were big.
Well, when I realized I was big, okay, we went to a festival, and we went to a festival in Denmark, and it's called Roskilde, and we played this festival maybe 5 or 6 times during the course of our career. The first couple times we played Roskilde, we couldn't even get backstage to see who was performing on the main stage. So, we started like in the tent that was on the outskirts of the festival. And then, we made it to, the really, really small stage, but, we couldn't get to the orange stage, which is, for that festival and in that country, it's that's the epitome of superstar.
You've made it.
Yeah, you've made it if you're, in Denmark playing at Roskilde on the orange stage. So a few years ago, we went to play Roskilde and we were on the orange stage. And it was like, okay, I felt like, we were doing something. But, it was the Roots, and then right after us, it was Bruce Springsteen, and that was the bill. It was just us and Springsteen. So I felt like, all right, this weird kind of shit. So we did our gig. It was still daylight out. We performed as the sun went down. The whole E Street Band was on stage, like watching us in kind of in awe. We got done, and we're in our dressing room. We were on a tear through Europe, and everyone was really tired. Questlove had actually already left the building to go somewhere else, to another country and DJ. And we're kind of getting our bearings in the dressing room, and Bruce Springsteen came in, and he was like, "You guys just killed out there." And we were like, "Oh shit!" And he said, "You guys want to come out and perform with us during our set?" And I was like, "Oh shit!" And, so he told his band, he was like, the Roots are gonna come out, play the song the way we did it on the Fallon Show, because we kind of jammed with them on the Fallon Show a few months prior. So we came out, like we were nervous, and we were like, oh, we don't have our in-ear monitors. We already sent away the equipment. We don't have a tuba. We don't have this, that. He said, I got all that shit. So he gave us in-ears and keyboards and percussive instruments and, a tuba. And, we came out there, and I'm on stage with Bruce Springsteen and Kirk Douglas, who plays guitar for the Roots and also does vocals. And Springsteen is, commanding the audience. His lyrics are all on the floor in front of us. We're leaning into the mic with Stevie Van Zandt and stuff, and Springsteen gave me his mic. And he's like, Black Doll's going to say something. And it was like, no! That was it. It was like, I was done. I'm a G, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that's it.
I think there's no other rapper. I don't think that's happened for Kanye West, Jay-Z. I don't think anyone
right
can
there,
say Springsteen has, relinquished his microphone in front of like 150,000 people, to them. So that's when I felt like we had arrived.
That's perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for this tonight. It was enlightening. We learned so much, not just about you and your career, but about the things that drive you and what is important to you and how you've kind of built a career off of learning and trying some new things and taking risks. And I think everybody here is better off for sitting around for this discussion with you and learning. And like that's secondary to the moments where you your creative juices were just flowing unstoppably up here, and impressively. So
Thank you. No, thank you all for having me. Thank you.
appreciate it.
That's it, man. Yep.